You're listening to an Awkward Human podcast on the 5x5 network. If you want to find out more about this show and all the other cool stuff that we do, visit awkwardhuman.com. Hello and welcome to the Awkward Human Survival Guide. This week we're talking about office anxieties.
Downgrading your charisma for her.
And pseudo-active digits.
Ooh. Hello and welcome to the episode. I'm Adam Dotchis.
I'm Erica Elson. We only have one guest today. Our very own, very special Rickard Red.
Ew.
Oh, no.
That was like the
Rickard?
worst one.
Rickard's is a brand of beer in
I'm
Canada,
not a brand of beer.
And Red is
I don't
the
even
best
drink.
kind.
I don't
and
even
you're a
drink
redhead,
bed.
And your name's Richard.
I don't even.
So.
I said I don't even drink bed. I don't even drink beer.
Maybe you would if you had Rickard's Red.
No, probably not. I like a
it's
cider.
They probably have cider.
I probably do a cider, but it makes me feel so bloated. Like I already feel bloated all the time.
Cider
so like
or
having
beer?
no beer.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's
then
like
just
a
like
loaf of
drinking
bread.
all that yeast.
Despite not having a guest, we might have a guest, though.
Oh,
Well, they're like an interview. They're not here in the studio with us.
Yes, Adam Valen Levinson, the writer of the Abu Dhabi Bar Mitzvah. So that will, you can look forward to that later on in the episode. But for now, Erica, you have a story.
Yeah.
What is it?
So I went to visit a set recently because part of my job is
for movies.
Yes, a film set. Part of my job as a production supervisor is that I have to go check up on my teams that are shooting and like see how it's going. And also it's kind of fun and just like I've read the script and I know their plans and I go and check out what they're doing. So this team was shooting in the jungle on the Warner Brothers backlot, which is normally really expensive. They got like deal for one day where it was free, except they had to pay for everything else. So like they had to pay union rates on crew members that they had to hire, and long story short, basically it's costing them like $5,000 to be there for that day. So they only had one day to shoot everything that took place in the quote-unquote jungle in this movie that was about these Burmese child soldiers, and it's like when they get captured. Everything else was taking
comedy.
Yeah. Everything else was taking place in like a prison cell, like this camp. It was all kind of like more like desert like. So one of the scenes that they were going to shoot while they were there in this greenery was when they have a flashback of their main character who's like standing at a river and she's holding this Asian cricket, which is, I found out Richard knows, they're quite different than American crickets. So they're like kind of like bigger.
Is this because you have to choose whether or not to buy them for the lizards to eat?
No.
So they're bigger, they're bright green, they're just like, if you were shooting them, they'd be much more visible than like an American cricket because they're like just bigger and like, I guess I wouldn't say.
Well, they're shaped differently, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it without like, maybe we'll put a picture in the show notes.
Maybe we will.
But anyways, it's like a completely different species and it's something that one could hold in their hand and would seem rather large. So they hire an animal wrangler to bring this cricket because you can't have animals on set without a wrangler. And they also have to get this specific type of cricket. So they explain it to her. They send her a picture. She's importing the cricket from Arizona because I guess they're hard to find. Like it's not something that's native to California.
What's it called again?
Like officially, I don't know.
No, the cricket that I should be Googling for.
Well, I said Asian cricket, but there might be a more like accurate biological term.
Okay, well, we'll just make it Asian for now. Upgrade it later.
So she's importing it from Arizona and whatever, and she shows up on the day, and they're paying this woman. She shows up on the day and didn't tell them that she didn't get the cricket from Arizona.
God.
Instead, she went and found American crickets and painted them green.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
She painted the cricket?
She painted the crickets. Which,
So she got a tiny ass cricket.
a tiny little cricket. Which, first of all, you're an animal wrangler. Why are you painting the animals? We don't even know if she used like safe paint. Like these crickets might be dead because of this woman.
They're dead.
You cover a cricket, a tiny little American cricket,
Her
and
job is to
paint.
keep animals safe.
I know. She's the animal wrangler.
I know it's just a bug, but I mean, like,
Now I have to Google.
They told me this, and I was like, "There are so many things wrong with this situation. I don't even know where
did they
to
find
start."
this woman? Was she in the directory?
Animalwranglers.com? I don't know. I don't know where they found her, but she was supposed to be like a licensed animal wrangler. So everyone on set was talking about these fucking crickets, and they're like, not only did she not bring the one that we paid her to bring, not only is she probably harming the animals by painting them, we can't even shoot these fucking things because they look like they were painted. Like, they don't even look like normal insects. Like, they look like fucking props. So I was like, well, that's very unprofessional. And then I talked to the first AD about her, and she's like, oh, yeah, well, you know how she also was supposed to bring the rats? Because there's a scene where the child soldier is captured. She's in this prison cell, and there's, like, rats everywhere. And there's, like, 2 or 3 rats, whatever. They didn't want it to be crazy. They just wanted to show that there's rats in the cell on this, like, not great conditions. And so First AD goes and talks to her, and she's like, hey, so what's the plan for the rats? You know? And she's like, no, we're just going to put them in the cell. And she's like, well, yeah, but, like, do you want us to contain them? Because they're rats and they're going to be moving everywhere. Like, we can contain them really easily. We can get a shot, like, in a very specific part of the cell. Like, we can make a wall, whatever. She's like, no, just put them in the cell. Of course, the rats are running fucking everywhere, and the animal wrangler is, like, running after them, chasing them, trying to get them to, like, stay there. I was like, sounds like she's doing the opposite of wrangling. I mean, wrangler is in her job title.
Attempting to wrangle.
But she's failing at it.
Maybe she was an intern.
And then she hurt her back running after the rats. She, like, pulled her back.
Oh, my God. Well, now I'm picturing, like,
she's never going to work this job
like a 55-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I saw her. I saw this woman.
She was blonde with glasses?
She wasn't blonde. She had long, like, really long
curly
ponytail, white
I was
hair.
picturing a very young,
white.
Was it flowy?
woman.
Not flowy. Was it wavy or was it curly?
Neither.
It was straight?
If anything, it looked like
frizzy.
You know, if like a Native American woman had long hair that she tied back, that, but white, and she wasn't Native American.
Okay.
But that kind of style, like maybe she was, I don't know, like a hippie before or something. She had a bit of a hippie vibe about her.
She
like,
smelled,
straight in that kind of way.
Okay.
But she had a very interesting look about her.
So I'm guessing they found her on Craigslist. And she just calls herself an animal wrangler because she loves
people $250
because she loves animals. She doesn't have a license or anything.
Right. She doesn't wrangle them. When I was telling my boss about this, I was like, I would describe her as an animal friend more than an animal wrangler.
Yeah.
I have an interest in animals. I don't know anything about them. I know how to buy crickets, and I have amateur painting skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't like her.
No, I'm fucking nuts.
So I'm curious. Is there a way that, you know, if you were this team, you might have, like if you were in their shoes, how would you have mitigated this problem? Because I feel like this is something that could have been prevented in advance.
You mean like asking to see the cricket the day before?
So, yeah, something like that. I mean, like what could they have done to maybe vet her prior to hiring her?
Well, what we always tell people is check 2 references, call, don't just trust what's on the resume, and maybe see if she's worked with crickets before.
Mm.
So what do they do? Are they just going to fix it in post? Sorry.
We don't have an animal wrangler list. I'm not sure how they found her. Like, we have lists of a lot of different crew positions, but I don't think we have like a dedicated like animal wrangler list. But I'm pretty sure there's an organization, like you have to be licensed to be an animal wrangler. Because it's like if the Humane Society comes and checks up on you, you have to have an animal wrangler on set.
I mean, just think you could have a list in Airtable now.
But I need to know who the people are. Like, that's why we don't have a list, is because I don't know any good ones.
No, and they have a good one. You just have them submit that via a form. But we could talk about that later. That's different.
For your question, I was like, is there any way you can fix it in post? And they were like, to me, way too expensive. Because, like, doing visual effects on something like that, because they wanted, like, a close-up.
So they're just going to be small crickets.
Well, what I recommended to them was...
I feel like you could actually probably do this pretty... This is for thesis, right?
Yeah, but what they have reshoots. So what I said was, I was like, get the medium shot while you're at Warner Brothers and you're paying $5,000 to be here. And we probably won't be able to see the cricket that well if you're, like, on a medium wide of this girl holding it. Mm-hmm. And then when you have your reshoots and you have your real cricket that you will import yourselves from Arizona and get a real animal wrangler, you go somewhere on campus that's very green and you get the close-up and then you just match it up. And they were like, yeah, that's what we're going to have to
do. Yeah, I mean, I could... I bet I could find someone to do it in post for cheap.
But the problem is it's not just the green thing, is that it's a wrong shape and size.
I'm not suggesting you actually do it. I don't think it would be that expensive. Just now that I have spent a day learning how to do 3D modeling, and so I'm an expert.
Honestly,
I think it's. I don't think it would be that hard to fix a cricket. I mean, like, animals are actually really easy to render realistically, especially small little ones like bugs that people don't really know what the details look like anyway.
So I have a question. Logistics or whatever. How do you handle in the back end, or not back end, but like behind the scenes? How do you handle the wrangler at that point, as far as like you hired this person to do a job, they didn't actually do their job
for a refund.
Okay.
I don't know if it worked out or not. I was like, should I go talk to her? But then I was like, I didn't hire her. Like, it's not my like deal to do. Like, it's their thing to learn. And I was like, you ask her to come for a specific purpose. You're paying $5,000 to be here. You're not going to get the scene that you want. You should at the very least get a refund on the day rate for the animal wrangler. I haven't had their rat meeting yet, so I can ask her. I asked them how it went.
I thought you said rat meeting.
No, rat.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Can't wait to talk about that. It's going to be a fun one. How did it go? Well.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's the life of being on movie sets, I guess.
Yeah.
Hollywood's so glamorous.
So glamorous. Actually, while I was there, one of the they like all the producers crew for each other. So there was a producer there who has done her film, and then she's like, "Is any of this actually glamorous, Erica?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, it's cool being here at Warner and everything, but like this is the real deal, right? This is like where professionals make movies. It's not glamorous." And I was like, "No, it's not really." And she's like, "I guess you just think eventually it's gonna be glamorous, but it's always like shitty movie sets with kind of dirty people and a shit ton of equipment, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much."
Wow. Well, that's uplifting.
Yeah. Well, you know, better realize that when you're young.
Yeah.
That's
all
nice.
right. Well, should we get to some questions?
Yeah, we could do that. We could answer some questions. Though, for those who are brand new here, like, you know, no one, if you want to go to ask a question, it's on awkward.email. You can also go to 509awkward by calling it on your phone or texting it, and we'll get all of that stuff. You can actually write in a lot of different ways. Awkward.email is the place to go if you want to send in something anonymously. You can also just email us at questions@awkwardhuman.com. It all gets pulled into a database now. It's really cool. We're on our last day of paper rundowns, I think. We actually could have probably used the new system today to read from, but I forgot what the URL was.
It's just so uncomfortable. We're not gonna do it.
No, I didn't realize it was done because I didn't read my text messages, and I forgot what URL I decided to put it at, so I don't know where it is.
Okay, those
I have to look
all
it up.
Logical reasons.
But yeah, you could ask us all about the questions and whatever.
So our first question comes from Jamie, a 22-year-old bisexual female, who says, "Hey guys, it's me again. Hi, you. I'm finally up to date with the podcast. It'd be great if I could rate it or show some love more openly on Spotify. If I don't have iTunes, is there any other way I can do this?
Oh.
This time, rather than a story, I now have a question. Apologies if any errors in typing. It's early. So at this point in time, I'm working as a cold caller in this company, and I really
I'm sorry, a
hate
what?
it. Cold caller.
Cold call. Oh, I see.
This is gonna be a question.
call
for
center.
Erica's gonna have a lot to say on this one.
I think money was too much of a motive for me, even though the job I had before was affordable. I have anxiety at this point in time and have for a while. At present, my time before and after work is filled with anxiety to the point of a panic attack, and it's horrible. For now, what I'm doing is a part-time course in counseling with a company that can get me a job in that department after I finish. It's always been a true passion of mine to help others, and I've always wanted to work in counseling. However, that could be months away. I wondered if you have any tips on controlling my anxiety for now while I have to work there. I currently rent, so not working, unless for literally 1 month, is completely unaffordable for me, as I can't expect or ask my partner to carry the load for me, and I don't like to rely on others. In order to be qualified, it's around 160 hours of coursework, and with work in mind, I can do 3 hours each working day and around 8 on the weekend. Sorry if the explanation seemed long, just wanted to give as much detail as possible. Could really use some help with this. Adam, if you have any questions before podcast airing, I'd be happy to answer, or even during if I'm around. Thanks again, guys, for managing to make me smile during these tough times every week.
Wow. So she really knows how the show works, because she even included like Adam. If you got any more questions before the podcast.
Yeah.
She's turning 22 on May 9th. I'm turning 32 on May 8th.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I actually put her down as 22 for this episode since it's going to air very close to her birthday.
Happy
so
birthday.
Happy birthday, Jamie.
To you
Hola,
and
feliz
me.
cumpleaños.
And okay, so a few things. A few things. When Jamie says "remember me," you may remember Jamie from previous question. I like actually looked these up because the process of this whole rundown thing that I keep referring to is we're creating a database of everything about the show and linking all the questions together, and like you'll actually be able to go see
like click on a person who submitted and then see all their stuff.
Yeah, you can see related questions. You can go through like the whole Janet story or Beowulf story. Those were 2 I linked right away because I knew those. I wanted to make sure it worked, and I knew those had a bunch. But we're tagging stuff. I'm gonna start putting in advice summaries to the questions. We won't post absolutely everything that is coming because there are over 1,000, I think, at this point. And some of them are the same kind of question, or they're like not a question; they're just a comment. But we're creating the Awkward Human database,
Cool.
or building that out that it is created. And you'll be able to go on it and check it out and see it. And there are a lot of cool features I'll talk about when we're actually close to being done. But we've got a good portion of it done and are going to be able to start using it next week. Anyway, the point is I linked Jamie's questions together, and
so one
of them was about when her boyfriend accidentally peed in her mouth after a blowjob. Remember that one?
Yes.
And then the other one...
I don't remember that, but it's beautiful. Okay, go on.
It was 173 and 189, and I think the P was 189. 173, I feel like it had something to do with a family member, maybe? I can't remember which one. I can't remember what the other one was, but I think everybody remembers the P in the mouth.
Yes. So, should we answer this question?
Yeah. Okay, well, first, why don't we deal with the show rating thing? Because you were just checking, Richard, I think.
Yeah, no, I was looking at iTunes, and we're still at 32, which is
very disappointed.
What's going on? We're over 200 episodes old.
First of all, we did request that people do that again, I think, for the first time last week, which technically isn't up yet.
I don't think so.
Well, for the first time recently.
Oh, it was the first time we explicitly were pushing.
And no one's seen that episode yet.
No, because last time we recorded, I was like, guys, you still haven't reviewed us since I brought this up.
Right. But then the last episode, we were really urging each person who wrote in
That's true. Yeah,
to do it.
It's just kind of funny Jamie wrote this in because technically that episode hasn't gone up.
Yeah.
But...
Well, she's finally caught up on all the episodes. She didn't know how she really felt until she finished all 200. So,
well,
I get it.
There's always the option, if you really love us that much, you could just download iTunes.
Well, how do you
have iTunes? Why is that?
If you're not on an Apple,
I think a lot of people.
No, iTunes is available on Windows now.
Oh yeah, no, but it sucks.
Well, but what about if you're using a Samsung or something? Like an Android phone. Can you get iTunes
I suppose if you're not using a computer.
Because I don't think there are many people... Well, I mean, I don't listen to podcasts on a computer.
Yeah, most people don't. But I mean, if you have iTunes to listen to music on your computer, then you would...
rate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the landscape has changed so much that... I think it's interesting, though, that Spotify doesn't let you rate them.
It doesn't?
Apparently. Otherwise, Jamie would have, it sounds like.
Oh, we're on SoundCloud, aren't we? Or...
No. SoundCloud's a platform. It's
what's the other ones?
I thought we were on 3 things.
We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play. We're on Stitcher.
You can review on Google Play.
About Stitcher?
There you go.
We're on. Yeah, I mean Google Play. I think you can just if you have a Android phone, which is likely since you don't have an iPhone. I'm presuming. Otherwise, you could go and rate us that way. You can rate on Google Play, so that would be.
I guess that means we're gonna have to check those places too. Because what if people have been rating us on those places?
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I've never looked. I'm gonna go see if I can even find it. I had trouble finding our show or really anything.
So we're gonna stay real quiet while we check, and you guys can just watch.
No, well, Erica, why don't you start giving advice to?
Well, the problem is her advice is not like how do I get better at telemarketing. It's how do I stop the soul crushing anxiety that I feel doing this.
Yeah, but you felt that at many jobs. How did you deal with it?
Oh, I didn't have anxiety.
Well, yeah, but you felt. You're like, oh, I hate being here or whatever. I think the solution is going to be the same either way.
To leave the job.
Yeah, but how did you survive while you couldn't leave the job?
Well, the second telemarketing job I had, I didn't hate.
Well, yeah, because you didn't have the vampire boss.
Right.
But
and
it
so
paid terribly, so.
No, the second job paid much better because I was really good at it. I made $20 an hour there for telemarketing.
I thought it was good. I thought when you took it, it was a downgrade in pay.
No, because there was the same base salary except it's all commission based above minimum wage. I mean, I guess I was in a better situation than many telemarketers in the sense that I was guaranteed $10 an hour, regardless, or maybe it was $9.85 or whatever. A lot of people who do cold calls, it's commission only or primarily commission. So I knew what I was making, but I also knew that I couldn't have a part-time job where I made $9.85 an hour. So I just got a lot better at it, and then I was making $20 an hour, and so I was like, oh, it's worth going in for that amount of time if I'm pretty sure I'm going to be making around there. Also, it was a smaller office, my coworkers were nice, and my boss would buy us pizza if we hit a certain goal. So like that. My first boss, the first telemarketing job, he would try to use like fear as a tactic and basically make you feel like you'd get fired if you didn't make enough sales.
That's healthy.
And then be like, he would literally, his tactic was he would walk by and go, Erica.
Walk over, float over.
Yeah, because he's a vampire. But he would do that with everyone and their names. As in, like, you better be fucking scared. That was, like, his tactic. But my other boss, she'd be like, all right, I really want to hit this number tonight. If we hit this number, I'm getting pizza. If we hit this number, I'm getting good pizza. Wow. So, like, Pizzanista. Which
you guys
really
were
liked.
not on Google Play.
Oh, no. She can't rate us there.
All our other shows are on Google Play.
well, let's get on it.
Supercharged isn't actually, but
we're an exclusive show. The
reason why is because it needs verification from 5x5, and I totally forgot to email them and say, hey, can you change this to my email address on the podcast listing? Or the funny thing is, it used to.
Well, we'll be coming to a Google Play near you.
So I got to email Dan about something else anyway. So. I guess you can't rate us there, but if we come up, it's really hard to like even find a podcast on Google Play because I was searching for ours, it didn't come up, so maybe that's because it doesn't exist. But let's see if Interview with a Nerd, Richard's show.
Well, it seems like she's not making terrible money because she said money was too much of a motive for me, so that's why she took the job. So,
well, maybe she's like that desperate for the money.
But she said her job before wasn't that bad.
Oh.
So, tips. Well, the reason I got good at it, and maybe this will give you less anxiety if you felt like you were good at your job. I don't know if you are or not, but was that I just basically convinced myself that people were really excited to get my call. Because like that's how you got to do it. And like honestly, they kind of sounded like they were. Like the way
you were mostly calling like old women, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I was working for the LA Opera. And I was basically like, hi, I'm calling from the LA Opera. How's it going? And they were like, I'm home at 2 p.m. So fine. What do you want to talk about? And then I'd be like, oh, I'm actually calling to tell you about our new season. Do you have a second for me to go through all the operas with you? So like I would basically frame it as if I was doing them a favor. I was like, this is an announcement that you're getting like exclusively. And as soon as they said sure, I would go into the whole thing. I would describe every single fucking opera. And by the end of it, they were like, that sounds great. Like, how can I get tickets, basically? So, like, they asked me to sell to them the way I was pitching to them. Whereas I think I've never actually gotten a call from a good telemarketer in my entire life, which I think is really terrible because I'm like, I figured out how to do it. Like, why can't anyone else in the world? They sound really robotic. They don't sound excited about what they're doing. And they assume that you're not going to want what they're selling.
Right.
If you assume that they're going to want it, then they're going to be like, oh, is this something I want? Question is planted, and then the world is your oyster.
Yeah, I've never done a job like that before because it sounds mortifying for someone like me. But I don't know. I think the way that I would probably approach it, having never done it before, I would just kind of like pretend I'm just a completely different person doing it because that's not my personality to like be calling people and act excited about something. I mean, it was
also easier for me because I actually do like music. So I was like, oh, this is the side
well, you're
of me.
classically trained, yes.
Yeah. So I was like, this is the side of me that likes music. So I just need to put that in the forefront. Like, forget the sarcastic side and the side that, like, doesn't want to do this. But, like, only focus on that one portion of myself who's like, hey, I think what we're doing is really cool. And you should, like, get on board with it instead of, like, treating it as a sales call because I don't like sales. So, like, whatever it is that you're selling, maybe it's tense. And you think people should go outdoors more, and you can get excited about being like, oh, hey, I'm promoting health because people are going to go out and like hike and go camping. Maybe it's computers and you can teach them something about it.
What if she's a debt collector?
Would that be a cold call?
I don't think it's ever not a cold call.
Is the money good in debt collection?
I would assume that it's better in debt collection because you're it's like a thing where you are supposed to get money from people. And they want people who are really aggressive. I'm just trying to think of like what would be the worst situation here so we can give advice on that.
I mean, I would say that you should still try to be positive about it because you can be like, hey, I'm here to help you solve your problems. Once you pay me, you won't have to worry about being in debt anymore.
I just feel like, I know this isn't realistic, but I feel like if I were like a debt collector, I'd be like, listen here, you little bitch, you owe us $5 for
But see,
this thing.
that would be like acting.
That's harassing, though. You actually can't legally do that.
Okay, so don't do that. But like the idea of like trying out a new way of talking that like would be like acting.
Yeah, you could do that. I think you could make it fun.
Acting class.
Yeah, you could like call them with an accent. You can call them like pretending to be like this perky cheerleader. You can call them pretending to be like this emo or something.
Yeah.
Like I think you could try to make it fun. I think it still to me sounds exhausting, but because I think it sounds like she has a lot of anxiety towards just like talking to people in general. Like having to call a stranger on the phone is like the anxiety that it's giving her. I don't know. I think it's just like you just have to keep doing it and like pushing yourself to do it. Eventually you like get used to it. But I think it's just like something you have to tell yourself like this is an act and like
and try out different acts, make the day fun.
And then spray some acts.
And also when she's going to be a counselor, she's going to have to talk to people she doesn't know. So it's good practice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Or you know what? Get real deep when you like talk to them and be like, "Hi, have you considered trying the opera? Because life can be very disappointing and depressing, and if you need entertainment, the opera where they show death and sadness all the time.
Not depressing at all.
I mean, I will say I definitely had some therapy sessions in my cold calls.
Yes, I remember that.
Accidentally.
Why don't you share one of them? Maybe it'll help.
Schnar.
Well, that wasn't a therapy session. That was a man insulting his wife. Her as in the whale or the friend who made me the shirt?
Yeah, the friend.
I don't know, but no one knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's fine.
I had someone, the one I called, well, I didn't really give them therapy, but I called someone who said she had just gotten diagnosed with cancer and fired from her job because of it, so she couldn't afford to go to the opera.
Oh my God. Could she prove that they fired her because of it?
I don't know.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's bad. I had this the worst call I ever had actually was this couple that was fighting the entire time.
Oh, no.
And they were fighting because the girl wanted to get the tickets and the guy didn't want to. And it was so fucking uncomfortable. I was like, I don't need it. I don't want the commission. I'm just hung up. And she was like, no, baby, I want these fucking tickets. Just buy me these tickets once in your life. Just do something for me.
Richard, watch out for that light
and they weren't even expensive. It was one of those things where they clearly were not like, this was at the Hollywood Bowl and not the opera, and a lot of people are like one-time bowl goers. They go for like a specific show. They're not like rich old people who have subscriptions. Right. And I could only sell subscriptions, so I was selling them the lowest price subscription because that's how I got them on board. Because I was like, oh, are you gonna go to more than one show? She's like, oh yeah, those all. I think it was the jazz series. She's like, those all sound really good. We should just do it. So it wasn't even like she was spending a bunch of money.
Well, how much was it?
It was like maybe $200, maybe less.
Okay.
I mean, our quote unquote expensive series.
And that's for
like
the year.
$3,000. Yeah, that was for the season. So it's probably like $30-$40 a show. I mean, no, it was 2 tickets. So yeah, like maybe 25.
2 tickets for $200?
Yeah, it was like 4 shows.
That sounds like a good deal.
$30 a show or something. Yeah, but my commission on that was probably like $6 or something.
Right.
And what?
And a pizza.
And relevant information to the question.
Oh, well, I was just saying it wasn't worth it. So if you can counter someone like that sounds like they're literally going to get divorced over the tickets that you're selling them, then just be like, you know what? Why don't you think about it? I'm going to call you back another time. Don't stay on the phone with them for 20 minutes.
I would, because I just find it so entertaining. Like, what is happening? I
usually did, but this was so uncomfortable. It was like, why am I part of this conversation? Why are they screaming at each other while I'm on the phone?
That's at the point where you're like, Janine, listen to me. Listen to me. He doesn't value you, and you need out of this relationship.
I mean, he paid for them.
Well, that's good. That's good. They're not together anymore.
He was like, here's my credit card. She's like, are you ready? It's a visa.
They're super not together anymore.
Probably didn't even go to the shows with her.
Probably not.
Brought someone else.
Oh.
Good luck.
Good luck, Jamie.
Romance is beautiful. All right, our next question comes from Jake. Good day, fellow coworkers. Big fan of the show. I'm Jake, 20, straight, and male. I got this girlfriend of 2 months who doesn't like when I'm flirting, except that's how I talk, so what am I supposed to do? I like her a lot, and she don't want to get... And I don't want to get dumped. Okay, I thought that was a weird transition. And don't want to get dumped over flirting. That just happens. It's just how I talk. I think I even do it with the boys. It's just compliments and smiling. I learned me some charisma to get places in life, and it works. But how do I turn it off when I'm out with her? Advice appreciated. Thank you.
Sounds like we already answered this. Didn't we have a question just like this recently?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I mean, I guess it sounds like he knows when he's doing it, right? Is that the assumption that he like kind of can tell?
I think 100% of the time he's doing it, so I would assume he knows when he's doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's really an issue that can't be solved with in a way that is not you quitting, then I don't know, just be more conscious of it.
Well, this like
you don't have to be like, wow, your smile is really lighting up the room. You can just say hello.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like he shouldn't stop smiling because that would be weird.
No, I didn't say stop smiling.
No,
that's a compliment that you would give someone that you don't need to.
I'm not responding to what you said. I'm saying like, well, I am. I just didn't get to that part yet. I think keep smiling, Jake. But what Richard's saying is like, yeah, I mean, like if you tone down the compliments maybe when you're with her and maybe focus more of the compliments on her, it might be, I didn't think of this before, but maybe it's a problem where it's not an issue of him complimenting other people so much as she's not getting the compliments because they're together and they're out and about, and he probably does compliment her if that's a normal thing. Jake, if you don't, then start doing that. That will help. But if if she's just like, why am I not getting the compliments, and he's giving them to other people, like, does he want something from them? Then I would say just tone those down, give more to her, or start by giving more to her and see if that does it, because then you don't have to really change anything. You just have to lay it on her a little bit more. Like, I like your blouse. I like your hair.
Yeah,
I like your personality.
Try not to touch the other person, because that's a form of flirting when you like kind of brush their shoulder or something with your hand. Like, don't do that if you're doing that.
Yeah. And I'd say unless it's guys, but maybe she's concerned about that for some reason.
I don't know. That would be kind of hot.
Doing it with everyone.
I mean, I'm worried that maybe she's overreacting. Like, I don't want to like leave that out of the conversation, that perhaps she's just insecure and it's not you.
I mean, the fact that he's like, this is how I talk and I do it with everyone, men and women, to me is like, well, that's not really flirting. That's just your personality. You're a charismatic dude, like.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge difference between targeted flirting and being enthusiastic when you talk to people. And if they'll only be together for 2 months, you might just not be able to tell that that's what he's like.
I mean, people misunderstand me as a flirt sometimes. And not as much now that I'm older and people don't want me anymore. But when I was younger, it was a big problem.
Well, I mean, remember the excellent conversationalist?
Yeah.
He wasn't flirting with me. He was gay. But it could have been perceived as flirting because he was so charming and like into anything you would say to him.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't know that he was in a relationship with the person next to him, standing next to him during that conversation, it could have been misconstrued if it was just like one-on-one.
Yeah, I guess it would also depend on how long she's known him. Maybe they haven't known each other. Well, they've been together for 2 months, but how long have they known each other?
Right.
So if this is something just like a completely new relationship that you've never had with, I mean,
that would be my guess.
Yeah, then you're right. She probably doesn't really understand how he is with other people. Maybe they've been seeing only each other for a while, and now they're starting to hang out with other people, and he needs to explain to her. Like, I guess I would talk to her and find out, like, what is it that you consider flirting, and what do you feel like I'm doing with them that I'm not doing with you that I should be doing with you? Yeah. And like try to figure that kind of stuff out, and then have a conversation around that. Say like, well, this doesn't mean anything to me. That's just the way I am. I know that I am charismatic, or that I can be charismatic, and I like that part of me, and I like being that way with people. I don't have any interest in them. That's just the way I speak to people. Yeah,
and she should be able to kind of get over that. But if there's like touching and stuff, I can understand why that would make someone uncomfortable, because then maybe she's getting messages from her friends that are like, why is he touching all those people? Like, he's with you, right? You guys have an open relationship or something? Not that there's anything bad about that, but some people will, if that's not what you're doing and you don't want to be misled, I don't know what it doesn't matter. The point being, we don't know where her insecurities are coming from. It's possible if she's, also early 20s, she may not have enough experience yet in dating that she's aware of where this insecurity is coming from. Like, she may just see it as like, oh, he's doing this, and not realize that it's her, that she's just kind of like a little jealous and wants the compliments. So she may not be able to articulate exactly what the problem is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about it. Like, if you seem very, articulate in terms of expressing how you feel.
Yeah, you made me feel like you want me, so
he seems like he can, like he can say like, yeah, no, I this doesn't come across to me as, if this were explained to me as the girlfriend, if you kind of said it like that, I wouldn't feel attacked or like it was my fault. It's like, I just want to do this, I'm just not really sure what to do. Can you tell me a little bit more about what what bothers you about it, so I can focus on that? And
I think you should reassure her during the conversation, like, I'm super into you, or whatever the words you want to use. Like, let her, like, remind her, like, no, I'm into you, I want you to be into me.
Let's be into each other.
Let's be in each other. Meet me in the bedroom. Like, and
good talk.
Yeah, just like reassure her that, like, you have nothing to worry about. I really like you. I'm not looking to other people. Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck, Jake.
Our next question.
Is it Jembra?
No.
Oh.
Comes from a mystery phone man.
We're going to call him Jembra. Well, because it's Jamie and Jake. Now we need another Jake.
24-year-old male homosexual writes.
That's definitely a Jembra. Okay, go on.
I met this super cute guy the other night and got his number. I never asked the guy for a number before, but I sort of bumped into him at a store, and after talking to him, I just kind of blurted it out. I gave him a call, but he didn't answer. I know what you're thinking, but it was his number for sure. I heard him on the voicemail, same name and all that. I'm not waiting around by the phone, but like now it's a week later and nothing. Do I call the guy again or give up? Texts don't work with his phone, by the way.
What? Don't work with his phone?
Yeah, so is it 1995? Does he have a landline? What's going on?
Texts don't work with his phone. That's so weird.
What phone other than a landline can't receive text messages?
Like a work number?
But that would still be a landline.
Oh, yeah, but no, it could be a VoIP number. It's possible.
I think that's your first clue. If texts don't work with his phone, then maybe it's not his number one real phone number.
Number one.
Maybe it's not his. Yeah, maybe it's not his
main line
number.
Yeah, because no one doesn't text.
But why would you give someone a half fake number?
Well, maybe he just was like, oh, maybe I'm interested in you, but I'm not really sure, so I'm just gonna give you this number so that I don't have to risk the fact. Remember that guy who texted me or sent me a message on Facebook and was like, you seem like a douchebag because I didn't want to sleep with him? He had my number at some point. That's why I don't give strangers my number. So it's possible that he was just like, oh, you might seem cool, but I'm not gonna give you the opportunity to harass me on my main line.
Right.
Yeah, he could have also, like, I think given people the wrong phone number before and given them like the my Google Voice instead of my main number when I meant to give them the main one, which this wouldn't happen in that case, but it's possible that sometimes you're not thinking, you literally ran into each other, I believe that said.
Yeah.
And
listen, I would say call him back one more time, because you've only called him once.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a week. Like, it's not
I would say call him back one more time. Just say, like, hey, it's so-and-so. We met at this place. Wasn't sure if you got my last message. Just wanted to call, make sure. Hit me up if you want, or just hit me up if you get a chance. Leave it at that.
Yeah, did you leave your number when you called?
Yeah, that was my next question,
because
too.
if it's not a cell phone and that the fucking phone doesn't have caller ID, which like my work line isn't great with caller ID, then maybe you forgot to leave your number because you just thought, oh, he'll have it because I called him.
Yeah, I just say try one more time. If he doesn't respond, then just like let it go, girl.
Yeah, and I would just say I think, like everybody's saying, keep it casual and not you don't want to come across as like, why are you calling me?
But if you do want to come across that way, wait at the store where you guys met each other and just like day and night in your car, just like binoculars, popcorn, whole situation, waiting for him.
Yeah.
When he shows up, go in there, and bump into him again and be like, oh my God, it's you.
I have a coworker who went to a dance bar.
Bar?
Like a
okay, grandma.
Not like a club, but you know what I mean. And met someone and like danced with him and whatever, and he kept being like, can I have your number? Can I have your number? And so she just gave him her card, her business card, which only has her business information on
sexy.
it. And then
that's kind of what I was thinking.
Right. 2 days later was like, oh God, why did I give him all my work information? Of course, he called her. She didn't pick up because it was an unknown number. He left her a voicemail. The voicemail was basically like, girl, you're so fine. This is so-and-so from the club on Saturday.
From the bar club.
The dance club.
And
sorry,
I
dance
realize
bar.
that I am doing this all wrong.
And
right
I
now.
just wanted to tell you, you're fine. And I looked you up, and you seem very successful. I'm very impressed with all your achievements. You seem to be working in the film industry, and you're like a self-made woman.
I'm done with him.
And you're fine. So call me back because I want to see you.
I mean, I like that he's impressed with her accomplishments. That's a nice thing to throw
It
in
was
these
hilarious
days.
that after saying how fine she was 3 times, he's like, I looked you up and you seem very successful.
Do women ever really want to hear, "You're fine"?
Well, she played the
I think some
voicemail
do.
for 4 different people and never called them back. So that's what not to do.
Yeah.
And then never returned to that dance club because she was worried about running.
Dance bar.
I
bar.
don't mind being told like I look nice or anything like that, but I would feel uncomfortable if it's like really, I mean, if it's in the right context.
It was
like,
not.
Well, clearly, but yeah, I mean, he didn't necessarily know. Well, I guess he probably did know he was calling.
It
work
was
number.
a card. Like it said where she worked on it.
Yeah, I mean, that really is on.
And
her,
he called out
but-
1:30 p.m. during the workday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Conveniently during lunch so that everyone could hear this voicemail.
yeah, it's still on her for
Beautiful.
giving the card, but yeah, that's maybe you want to be
So,
careful.
so mystery phone man, if you are calling a work line, don't start going on and on about how fine this guy is. That's not the right approach.
Yeah. Oh, this is a guy. I forgot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
mystery phone
Jembra.
man. Phone man.
Right, because you're saying Jim Bra, and I started thinking about
It's a
boobs
unisex name.
for the bra.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to
The
know.
bra?
It's not Jim Bro for males.
No.
Jim Bro.
Oh, is that the thing that stops your nipples from chafing?
Oh, I don't know. No.
Sweating.
What? That's Mr. Nipples.
Oh, okay.
What is
I mean,
no,
among
what
others.
is the
When you sweat and the shirt starts
Oh no, I was thinking
No.
of the
I was just
the
saying
titty,
Jim Bro
what
for
is it?
bros.
The titty ta, the ta,
The ta-ta.
ta towel.
ta
my
ta
God.
towel, yeah.
Oh,
Did you ever get one?
No, my boobs aren't that big, Richard.
Oh.
It's for people with large boobs.
Oh,
Get
for
a
second,
baby.
I was like,
Grow
I
your
was like,
boobs,
oh,
get
is
a
that
ta-ta
what
towel.
Mike Pence's wife made? But that was the
No, she
were
made
the
towel
towel
charms. Yeah.
Not
yeah,
the
and I was
same.
like, yeah, like boobs. They don't have
The
boobs
ta
in the
ta
Pence
towel is
family.
basically if your boobs are heavy enough that you want them to be held up by something.
When you're at the pool, yeah.
Yeah, so
Or
no one claims
lounging
your
around.
towel
Just
by accident.
lounging around.
Listen,
Lounging
I've
at
had that happen to me before, but you get another fucking towel. It's. I wonder if that ever
You're talking
took
about the
off.
towel charm, not
Yeah.
a ta-ta. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I
what?
don't understand. Try one more time, then give up.
Did that business ever take off?
You'll
though?
find another guy, Jembra.
Yeah, I mean, you're young. I wouldn't worry about it.
Go rate us on
What is
iTunes.
Jembra's real name, though?
Mystery
No,
phone
there's no
man.
Mystery phone man. Oh, there
How
was
many
no
times do I have to say mystery
Right?
phone
Oh,
man?
Well, you said it a lot, and towel charms.
AKA Jembra. Bye.
I think that's our time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bye.
Wait, no. It's time for our interview.
Oh, hi.
We are speaking with Adam Valen Levinson, who's the writer of the Abu Dhabi Bar Mitzvah. Adam, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And what is the Abu Dhabi Bar Mitzvah? It's a book, but how did the whole book come together, and I guess why did you have a bar mitzvah in Abu Dhabi?
Yes. So the book at very first is a travelogue through the parts of the Middle East that have the worst reputations, at least in my head at the time.
Because you went into like Taliban territory, right?
I did. I went sort of looking for trouble as I expected it. I had in my head this kind of hierarchy of off limits nations, and it's not true. Am I allowed to say 4-letter words?
Oh yeah, encouraged even.
It's the only accurate way to describe like what that kind of framework is. It's total bullshit. But like in my gut, I thought, Lebanon, it's a little risky. My parents thought I shouldn't go there. Kind of typical Jewish American, well-traveled parents that lived outside of Philadelphia, where I grew up. And Afghanistan then is worse, right? Like it's just worse by some simple metric, and Somalia is the worst somehow. Like I felt like we could all connect with this hierarchy somehow, even though it was garbage. And that was one of the things that at first gave me really this obsession to explore places that I'd been told not to go. And at every step I found places that really did not conform with with the reputations. And I wrote the book partly because I'd always been an obsessive kind of journaler of types and taking pictures and things like that. And this was a little bit before Snapchat and before Instagram was cool. Like I think that if I'd moved to Abu Dhabi now instead of in 2010, this whole book might have been like a long Snapchat story. But I think that with a book, you get the chance hopefully to get into the mindset of like a young person and see a lot of the things that I was doing that were motivated by not the best intention, just proving somebody wrong, just being contrarian to what my parents said or what the State Department, travel advisory said. But that hopefully came up with like some information and some and stories that can help make us fear less.
Yeah, because I think we're finding out a lot that we've gotten wrong in the past these days, and a lot of things that we're repairing the incorrectness very quickly and rapidly now, and it's a little bit jarring for some people. Was there anything on the trip that you learned that was particularly surprising or kind of took you out of your comfort zone? Because it seems like you're pretty comfortable with a lot of things doing a trip like this, which is it feels dangerous probably to a lot of people, whether or not it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, I think, pretty early on that some of the things that felt sort of too uncomfortable to other people just didn't at first feel that too uncomfortable to me. But the problem is that, like, I was using that to basically to treat other discomforts. Like, I was really uncomfortable sitting still, and I was uncomfortable being comfortable. I got this job in Abu Dhabi. I was working for NYU as they started this new campus over there, and I was just out of college. They paid for this apartment. You could order like a delivery tomato to your apartment. If you were making an omelet and you're like, I need a mushroom, somebody bring me. And you could do that. And for a lot of people, I mean, I think about it now, like if I were more responsible and more mature, I might have said, well, this is great. I can use that and I can build something from that. But the comfort felt like not what I'd come to the Middle East to understand. I was just one of the kind of Jewish American kids who studied Arabic in college because it felt interesting. And I wanted to explore the world that opened up. And this wasn't that, this was too comfortable. So if anything, I think that was what I kept finding in places, and I kept being really off-put. I think, anytime I got somewhere and I didn't feel the thrill, the adrenaline, the rush, and took a long time to kind of break out of that. Not that I have entirely at all, but to understand that came from a place that really that looked at the Middle East through a lens that was still pretty superficial.
So how would you characterize the Middle East after getting a pretty accurate picture of it? I mean, like, how does it look to you now compared to the way that we probably see it in the news or in just regular in American culture?
Yeah, well, it's lots of things. I think the best that I could do is to start to see places in that region, with the same eyes that I look at America. I'm sitting by a lake in Mississippi right now, which I come down here for a book event in Oxford at Ole Miss, and then I drove around. I've been driving around for the past couple of days, and like the Deep South is a place that I think, growing up in Philly, had absolutely the same reputation as kind of the Middle East does now. Like I was talking to a friend of mine who said, "Oh, you're going down Mississippi? That's great. Like, did you bring your Jew license?" Like, sort of a joke, but like he wasn't. He was kind of like, "I really don't know. Like, you're not allowed in the country clubs there. What is?" But the crazy thing is that I found, the connections don't really stop there. The hospitality here is also very similar. There's a warmth and an openness that I think it's been easier to come by in Mississippi than in New York for sure. And, I think that now when I look at the Middle East, I kind of see it's just in slightly higher resolution, and I've sacrificed depth in some ways for breadth, like I wanted to get different pieces of lots of things that I knew were fundamentally different, but that could be compared, like what a city looks like in Pakistan is going to be more similar to a city in Afghanistan, and what rural countryside might look very similar in a lot of places, and just learning to kind of see things for the characteristics that matter and not by the name that governs them. I think that's what I wanted to take away most, I think. And definitely has maybe one of the things that's made people most upset with me when they read the book and they say, yeah, but why didn't you talk about Jordan, or why didn't you talk about some other place? Because to me, like that wasn't where our fears were rooted. They're rooted in these names, and the names have so much meaning that they don't necessarily deserve.
Do you find there were a lot of negative differences in terms of belief systems or anything like that? And is that something that made it difficult, or did you just kind of try to, I guess, avoid those sorts of conflicts and focus on just understanding? I mean,
Yeah, I was kind of a troll, like basically deliberately. I would go into places part of the motivation was, I mentioned my parents a little bit. My parents were super well traveled. Like my parents, they traveled in Eastern Europe, while it was part of the Soviet bloc, and they lived in Indonesia for a couple years, and they still said, these are places that are off limits. When 9/11 happened, I was 12, and that's a perfect age to go like, you said don't do this thing, fuck you, that's what I'm gonna do. It could have been something tiny, it could have been like, don't throw rocks at the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
But there was this giant, instead, what we got when we were like bar mitzvah age was this giant kind of global, what seemed like not a conspiracy, but like just a this gathering of different kinds of different levels of authority that said this place is off limits. And it was so easy to say, I'm motivated by just doing the opposite of that. And I think maybe I got sidetracked a little bit.
I'm the same way. But is it? I mean, I guess did you find that it was I guess difficult? You said you went in there and were being a troll a little bit. I mean, like I guess what was it? What did you do exactly, and how did that affect your experience?
So I feeling that I just wanted to, I kind of wanted to be proving people wrong. That was a little bit of what felt good, and a lot of it wasn't that conscious. It was like proving those people, insofar as I still was motivated by their opinions, like proving them wrong in my own head, because I still felt it a little bit. And I wanted to go to a dangerous place and have it not be that, but I didn't want people to have good counter arguments. If that makes sense, like yeah. When I come back from Afghanistan or from Syria and have somebody say, well, good thing you didn't tell them you were American, or good thing you didn't tell them you were Jewish, or good thing you planned the trip out super well, so I had to tell people, I had to be open, because I was trying to argue with people saying that you couldn't be open. And that led even to being deliberately poorly planned in my trip prep. I sort of like the idea of flying into places pretty blind and figuring it out and going, if that works, then this can't be quite as forbidden or quite as certain as people feel pretty often.
Did you get a lot of resistance from being honest with people, or did they actually find it refreshing?
No, I mean, especially in places where like tourism or foreigners are hard to come by, that's the loudest identity that I ever had, was just being an outsider. And in most places that's just interesting. If there was something to connect to in a place like Yemen, say, where they have a long Jewish history, they'd go, "Oh, you're Jewish, like, so you're from Yemen then," you know, because Jews are from Yemen. And that was kind of nice to be claimed and sort of a twist on what you find. But I think so much of the time it was that feeling of like, you know, if you've defined your identity in contrast to something else, which is basically how identities work. But like, if you're really holding on to part of what makes me feel good about being me is I'm doing it as an act of resistance somehow. And you go to a place and you're gonna. When I was telling people, when somebody would say, you know, are you Muslim, and I would say, well, you know, I'm close, and I'd say I'm Jewish. There's like something unconscious. It's like that feeling of like challenging somebody to a fight, you know, and you've got your haunches up and you're like, okay, like I'm ready for this. What do you got? You know, like and this is not to say that this is like that real animosity doesn't exist in some cases, but over and over and over again of me being that kind of troll, that's not what I got, you know. And it was that looking for a fight and I'm Jewish and nothing, and people going cool, or maybe going what's that, and you know, it's like you're leaning against something that isn't there, and you're almost like you kind of collapse, you know. There's it feels a little bit like a letdown, you know, and then you start looking for some other fight or something else that you can push against, and so it takes a long time to kind of break out of that pattern of not asking people to fight against you so that you can feel like you know. I don't mean you, I mean me doing that.
But it's interesting too, because people go into many situations expecting an outline or a cartoon of this stereotype that they've been told, and you actually meet real people and find out, oh well, yeah, there's more than one thing about this person, and it seems like in that moment it always seems very obvious, but until then, no matter how many times personally, and I think this is kind of a broad thing, that you get surprised by, oh yeah, no, you're an actual person, you're not a cartoon. It's like you can still keep getting surprised by it even though you know. So it's like, it's really, I think, easy to find comfort in fears, and people always look at like, oh, I can't believe you did this or that or the other thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's because it seems really scary, but then you actually do it and it's not as bad as it seems.
I mean, it's the craziest part. Like, I never wanted to write something that felt like a cliche, and I think that when you crack it open, it shouldn't, but even at this kind of the level of the basic message is something that is so self-evident, is so obvious, that we grew up knowing as kids, which is why, I mean, part of the book is about growing up and seeing things in a mature way, but a lot of that maturity is still like holding on to what you knew as a kid and not using some of that contrarian impulse is right, you know, because kids have fresher eyes and they're like, I think it's like absolutism that we've come up with about like this part of the world is off limits, when really even at 12 years old you've read history of people saying, well, at one point these people were kicked out and then people recognized that was a bad idea, you know. You're like, I think this looks like that, I don't know, I'm a kid, but I think this is looking like that other thing. That is such a helpful, I think those impulses are things that you want to cultivate. And it was crazy that, like, I don't know, I think even when I tell people that it's a book about the Middle East, I don't entirely believe that, you know, like I'm not the guy to write, you know, the deep book about the Middle East as the Middle East. You know, this is more than anything, you know, it's just an example of like the kinds of fears and the way that they manifest, that it could be anywhere, you know. And I think, and you know, Mississippi is a good example, but you know, for different people, it's different spots.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be afraid to go to Texas because I thought that I was going to get wrongly accused of murder and executed. And I, not really, but like, that was always in the back of my head, and I'd have these like stupid paranoias. And then I went to Texas, and I'm like, oh, this is actually cool. So it's It's weird how that happens, but I mean, like, if you get stuck in a comfort zone, you have no reason to leave, or you don't give yourself a reason to leave it and check something new out, then how do you ever find anything out that's different?
I mean, you're so right, like that. I've always thought there's something super dangerous about the argument better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
You know, because it puts you in a place where there's nothing to push back against, you know, where somebody says, just shouldn't do this, it's not worth it. And you go, yeah, but carry that logic out a little bit, and the needle's going to keep going in that direction then, and you're always going to be better safe than sorry until that's basically taken all the territory, you know, law of gases. That's going to take every space that you give it, until you say, I have to risk something to find out where the line really is, when you push back, where does the line rest? And it felt like it was so easy, you know, with basically all of the places that I went kind of when I was living in the Middle East, they were all in that category. People saying, well, you can't even engage with the cities where those flights are still landing, where like commercial flights are still landing, but we can't get on them. Doesn't feel right.
So there were some cliches that you did encounter, though, right? Because I remember reading something about correct me if I get this wrong here, but someone offered 50 camels for your girlfriend's sister for marriage.
Yes.
So
that really happened.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Where there were some weird things like that, some cliches that did. I mean, because that's almost sounds like a movie cartoon sort of thing. Something people would make a joke about.
It really does. Luckily, she doesn't actually have a sister. Otherwise, it's the highest. It's really the highest offer you can get. 50 camels. It's worth quite a lot.
Of camels.
And as if you broker the deal, you get some sort of commission. I think it can be up to 2 camels, and I might have taken that before you could find out that she didn't actually have it. But part of it, there is like a self-awareness that like people are kind of making jokes based on what they also know to be cliches. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. You see that. I mean, here in the South, you see that with people, cliches about like making jokes about guns or making jokes even about racism and whatever. And if you trust people in a particular way, you understand that even if there's a splinter of truth in it, that it's a little askew, that it's not exactly like this terrible offense. The other side is that that is how the guy who said that was Bedouin. He was raised in a kind of nomadic tribe following very much older traditions, and that was still like the way that he had an arranged marriage that didn't work out, and so that was how his life had been structured. But yeah, I think the key is when we're so allergic to stereotypes, we find it's hard to actually engage with truth. It's hard to just listen to people's story because you don't want to hear want to hear something that overlaps with something that's like a terrible cliche. But really, it's just, I think it's all about proportions and calibrating to, what kinds of people and what were their backgrounds like and what were their lives like, and that might have more to do with it than just like, oh yeah, like Arabs do. Like the guy he was Bedouin, he's not even Arab, and so I think just being able to distinguish, that's always the key.
Richard, you had a question?
Yeah. What's kind of been your experience talking to Americans after this experience, after being there and writing this book and everything? Like, do you feel like when you're talking to people that they're very open to what you're saying, or do you ever get any pushback from that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different classes of reactions. I think my favorite part is being able to talk to the people that like grew up in, I think, an even less open environment that I did, that really, my parents were open, they were just afraid of these kinds of places. But they're, maybe especially Jewish Americans that were really taught, these are places that want to kill you. and the people in them want to kill you. And I got, a letter from somebody who was raised in a household like that, who was like, I'm, as long as I don't think that you're a liar, this is crazy. It's crazy to me. It's crazy that this happened. I'm going, there's nothing insane about this, other than the fact that, like, I was just, people would say you're gonna die, and I'd go like, I bet my life I won't, and I was very confident in that. That was it. And other than that, nothing was insane about this. Like, I wasn't, so the idea that, like, that might actually release somebody from the fears that they'd internalized. I mean, that was always really, really a goal. But another one of the kind of reactions was from writers in America that thought that, like, a Jewish American or a white American, whether or not those things are the same or overlap or whatever, has no business writing about these places at all. And it just, like, wasn't for me to write about.
That's an interesting reaction to have.
Yeah, and it became a kind of kerfuffle in a sort of literary community that I'm not particularly part of, but a lot of people, I'm not sure whether or not they'd, like, really read the whole book. There was an excerpt of the beginning that was published, and it's largely about those first steps in encountering Arabic and of moving to this place that I didn't know that much about. But even before it was dealing with the substance, it was really the sort of, it triggered these conversations about identity politics and who has the license to say what about what kinds of stuff. And I think that can point in a pretty dangerous direction if we actually want to, like, really deal with actually deep-rooted prejudices that we don't have a chance to face unless, like, we can have conversations where we don't assume that people that don't automatically agree with us are, unsavable and are, like, deep down horrible people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's silly too, because if it's like, it's your perspective, like, you are the authority on that. So just because you had an experience that doesn't align necessarily with the perspective that people perceive you to have, or someone like you, I should say, or what they think you're like. I guess it's hard to really classify that, but for someone to assume that you're not the authority on that, it's weird. Like, you should be able to go have the experience you have and tell it from your perspective. And I mean, you could be a huge asshole too and still have that right. Fortunately, you approached this in a nice way, but it's I mean, it's like Bill O'Reilly gets to say what he wants to say. He has a very negative spin on things, and people don't say he doesn't. Well, I mean, I guess they do. Everyone says everything these days, but
there's a currency in that as well. But I think there's a real trouble nowadays with with nonfiction especially, that's distinguishing, the narrator from the author. And especially with a book that covers some period of time and, that I wrote, it took a long time to edit and to, go through the process of publishing and everything. A lot of it I wrote when I was 23, 24, and it was about when I was 21, 22. And, hopefully me and the guy who's talking in it are different, and they change at different paces. But it's hard to read that way, I think. And it's asking a lot of a reader, and there's so much. There's a big incentive to be offended by things, or to carve out territory and say that's for me and it's not for you. But I don't really think, I think the hugest problem with, the Middle East just as one example, but it's the kind of thing where people who know about the place in some kind of personal, deep way are dealing with a set of facts and feelings that are so distant from anybody who hasn't made a concrete effort to find out more and to challenge what they think. And it's gotten so far apart that it's, like, basically impossible to speak the same language anymore. You're like, how what are the references that you can even use that to make steps to get towards some sort of common ground. And so I think if you shut out the kinds of people who are moving from one side towards the other, and you say, well, they're not experts in the other side, so why should we listen to them? You're never gonna be able to build that bridge. It's too big. The gap's too big now.
I feel like you've kind of already answered this next question, but what would you say that this experience brought? What did you bring back with you, and how does it affect your day-to-day life now in America, having seen so much broad similarities and differences around the world?
Yeah. Well, it's still hard to sit in one place, that's for sure. And I'm still, I think, a glutton for novelty.
That's human.
But what's that?
That's human. You're allowed that.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I think the other really human thing, and this is, I think in the book, I'm maybe not so subtly, just like giving lots of shout outs to East of Eden, because Steinbeck made all the points that I would have wanted to make way better, and the real key of East of Eden is like being a human is about making choices. Like that's what you have to do, and it's really tough, and kids don't have to, and when you grow up, that's what you have to do. But that's what gives us this incredible power, and so much of what I was doing when I was traveling was just avoiding choices. I was avoiding growing up. I was avoiding like having to actually decide where I wanted to be. Somebody told me not to go somewhere, and I'd go, that's enough reason to go. I'll go in that direction, And for a long time, you can think that like that's you making the choice. Then, like they wouldn't have done that, so I'm doing. But really, they're still making the choice. You're still around the authority when you decide to do the opposite. And when I kind of ran out of places, like I ended up just so obsessed. Like I'd heard that you could get a boat out of Yemen to Somalia, so like I went looking for that boat and found one. And I ended up in Somaliland, and there was nowhere. There's like nowhere else on my list. There's
And that you were taking that boat into like pirate territory, right?
It was through at least what I thought then was the heart of Pirate Alley, still called Pirate Alley, but when I later looked at like the piracy maps of where attacks were, we were sailing kind of like between the hot spots.
Well, that's good though. You don't want to like actively run into it. I would hope.
But I didn't know that then, and I wouldn't have cared. I would have gone, look, what are the chances? And even more than that, like there are guys on this boat that they're gonna face those dangers. I don't really feel like I need to be safer than these traders. So like I'll take my chances with them. And also like that was the kind of boat. It was just a wooden Somali boat, like carrying cookies from Yemen to Somalia. And like that's not the kind of boat that gets attacked.
That's not what they're after.
They are not. The cookies like weren't even. They were not good cookies.
I was gonna say if I were a pirate, I'd probably go after the cookie boat. But if you say that's not good, I'll keep to the grocery store.
They were good with tea. They were meant. They were good with tea. But there's only like 100 tons of cookies. I think is too much, even for pirates. But yeah, no. So I was sitting in Somaliland, like just bored, and with nowhere else to kind of feed that rush. And so there was, I think this happens whenever you're bored and you have open space, you're forced to like actually think about what you're thinking about. You're forced to reconcile certain things and make choices that you can't just make because of what the circumstances are. So I definitely didn't like learn all the lessons, but it's like when you understand what the goal should be in some ways, and then I think I've come back and tried to live more by that, more like that, trying to actually make choices for the sake of making them, and not just because I'm being contrarian or like being a total dick.
Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes that's a good push to have too, though.
Oh,
I mean, clearly because it got you through this whole experience, or into this whole experience.
That's the twisted part about it, that there's like a really immature way in, at least part of it. And I don't think that was the only braid, in this, but that was part of it, and I think that can still come out in an okay place. And I think that's one of the things that made some people upset also, was saying like, your way in was a little twisted. That's, I mean, like, I think if you look at the stories of all kinds of people that have come to do much braver things than this, and like it didn't always start with the loftiest, most perfect, well-formed ideals anyway.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, like, if you figure it out as you go, who cares? I mean, people clearly do, but they shouldn't. I don't think if it be happy about where you end up and what you learn and stuff, I think. But I don't know. People like to judge, I guess. Well, one more question before we wrap up. I realize we kind of, I guess, glossed over the bar mitzvah part of it. What can you explain a little bit about how the bar mitzvah fits into the whole story?
Yeah. So I was never bar mitzvahed as a 13-year-old. My parents offered me the choice. Speaking of choices,
I would have said no if I was offered the choice myself. But
I mean, exactly. Like, I saw my friends coming home from school on Wednesdays and going to more school, and then on Sunday, and I was like, why? I knew that it seemed like the real thing that you got out of that was being more Jewish,
or all the gift cards. That was the best part.
Sure, there's that. I think I was Jewish enough to feel guilty even about that. I was like, I don't want to make other, because I knew that like I was the youngest in my grade. I think I was going to so many bar mitzvahs and like and I was like, man, this is stressful. Like I'm not gonna put that on anybody else. But even more so, like, why do I have to? Nobody can take my Jewishness away from me. Like, I like the Marx Brothers, man. I'm a Jew. Like, that's it. That's the only. And just feeling like there wasn't a point. There was no need to make a commitment. And then after that, I think I really liked the kind of middle ground that it was like I was Jewish, but I was an unbar mitzvah Jew. Like, I was almost in this permanent adolescent kind of space, as if that let me off the hook, like symbol somehow or whatever. And then, so when I got to Abu Dhabi, I was working for NYU, which has the nickname NY Jew, and a lot of people that had worked out there, they asked us beforehand. There was some form that we had to fill out for immigration that was like, what is your religious background? And it was an old form in the Emirates. Jewish wasn't an option.
Oh.
And so basically, NYU, when we moved in that year, we like tripled the Buddhist population of Abu Dhabi. And they had these gatherings. They brought Chabad rabbis,
Oh, wow.
Spent a lot of time in Dubai, more time in Dubai back then. They came down to light Hanukkah candles in Abu Dhabi. And they found out that I'd never been bar mitzvahed, which to a Chabad rabbi, like, their whole job is to make Jews Jewier. Like, to a Chabad rabbi, unbar, they're like, this is a jackpot. And they went, this rabbi, he asked me, he said, you've never been bar mitzvahed, let's just do it tomorrow then. Like, let's do it tomorrow morning. We're staying over. And, I really liked the unbar mitzvah Jew. Like, that felt accurate to like what I was. And the guy goes, where else if not Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, you can't pass that up.
That makes no sense. It's totally absurd. And like, for the kind of person that overthinks everything, that even at that point was like, I like being an unbar mitzvah Jew because it's like an adolescent. It's too much thinking. It's way too much thinking about this.
Yeah.
Absurdity just cuts right through that. And I was like, touche, Rabbi, I'll do it. You're correct.
Do Did you have to learn the whole Torah portion and go through the whole? I mean, like, how much prep did you actually have to do at that point?
Absolutely nothing. They were committed to the ritual, and I was committing to it. By the book, it's like the first time you put on tefillin, that is your bar mitzvah, if you're over 13. And so I did, and I think at the time I didn't. There was just a feeling that like this was symbolically something. It was like right around Christmas, and I wrote a little like blog post, I think, that was like a Jewish Christmas, story in the Arab Emirates or whatever. And my cousins in Israel and my girlfriend at the time, and my family, they were proud. There's this feeling like this was a meaningful thing, but I didn't know in what way. I think it took a long time to sort of see that was a lot of the reason why I'd even come to the place in the first place, to do things that felt uncomfortable and to commit to exactly what the bar mitzvah is supposed to be, is like this transition from thinking like a kid to thinking more like an adult, to taking responsibility and making choices. And to me, that felt like a lot of that was a lot of America's relation with the Middle East, metaphorically, like very childish, very just, we were told that this is bad, so this is off limits, like that's how that's another one of the ways that a kid thinks about something.
Yeah, and it's almost a better time too to have a bar mitzvah. I think you get used to thinking, oh yeah, it's 13, but I always thought it was weird. Like, I'm an adult now, and my parents are like, no, you're not. Don't get excited.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. We talk about like adulting into our into the 30s and stuff like that. It's like, I think the bar mitzvah is an old tradition. I'm pretty sure like 3,000 years ago, 13 was like 21. 21 is the new 13. It's like whenever you slaughter your own goats, I don't know, and I still have. So I feel like I'm not. We've stretched it out pretty far.
Yeah. At the same time, I feel like the adults are they're becoming less adults. I feel like I don't know if it's broad, but as you get older, you start to realize that your parents and the adults in your life are not quite as they're a little more childish than you imagined when you were a kid and couldn't or didn't think you could do as much for yourself.
That is totally true, and I think that's one of the ways that was probably one of the things that made it so hard for me to like break from the logic of my parents and the authorities that I trusted, when they were so wrong about these places, because I still like I couldn't believe that they were really that wrong, that and I didn't know how to, and this is again, it's something that Steinbeck says so much better. He goes, when the gods when they crack just a little, they don't crack, they come tumbling down into green muck. I think I may have twisted that phrase a little bit, but it's like you lose that little bit of trust, and it doesn't just when the faith and authority is the things that you've depended on. When that there's a little weakness, that it's never just a little, like that gets real messy real fast.
Yeah, the weight of expectation is very heavy when it's not met.
Yeah.
So yeah. It can be a jarring experience, but it seems like ultimately in your case this was a very fruitful one and interesting and illuminating. So I appreciate you coming here and talking to us about it, and thank you for sharing all of this.
Of course.
Where can people find the book? I mean, I know it's on Amazon, and you have a website which we have on screen right now, which is yourname.com. But where would you like to send people to check out your stuff?
They go to Books A Million and look for independent bookstores. That's always great. If you want to check out something else I'm working on, I'm a fellow of cultural sociology at the Center of Cultural Sociology at Yale. I do a lot of research about humor. Basically, this is just another angle trying to find out what's like really actually different about people. I feel like humor is the key. And if you want to take a survey that exploring people's responses to wordless cartoons, they can go to humorproject.earth.
Interesting.
And check that out.
Cool.
And working on some other things that hopefully we'll be able to show people soon.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much. We'll have links in the show notes for everybody who wants to check all that out. And Adam, thanks so much for talking to us. My total pleasure. Thanks so much, man. All right. That was our interview. Be sure to check Adam out online. Links are in the show notes at 5by5.tv/awkward/208. And I said 5by5.tv, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. And also, Erica, we had something we wanted to request of the listeners.
Yes, so it has come to my attention recently that I have not been in as many awkward situations as I used to.
I thought you were going to say that I'm just not funny anymore.
Well, I mean, I
That
feel
too, though,
less
right?
funny than before. I feel like it was pretty funny today, though, so like I'm doing all right. But in terms of talking about my life.
Can you please write in and rate Erica's humor?
And can you also do it in like a graph form so you can compare it to like a year ago or 2 years ago?
Okay.
I don't want...
April 2014, Erica and I had our book, our book presentation...
At Barnes and Noble.
A little launch, I think.
Yeah,
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble at the garage. It's the best Barnes and Noble in the city.
Yeah.
And
the one with the most famous people.
And it's 3 stories
Jimmy
high.
Carter was there the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Clinton going to be there?
The funny
right
thing
after
is,
you?
our
Yes.
Zumba teacher's husband works there and worked there while we were giving our
we
book
didn't
thing.
know.
We didn't know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the we
made
Erica
a video.
was very funny. Yeah, we made a video that kind of described what she and I do as writers and
people.
Yeah, but I mean, it was for writing purpose. It was for our writing career, and it was the editing frames it as kind of like, oh, these are the things we talked about when we wrote the book, and then showed our work in between. And I was watching this while I was editing it, and was like, oh wow, we were really funny here, and I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Neither of us remember us being funny that night, but both of us separately while watching it were like, oh my god, we were hilarious. Like, well, this is so funny.
That goes a lot to my masterful editing.
But there were a lot of times where there were no cuts, and I was like, this is just really funny banter.
Oh no, there were cuts. You just didn't know there were cuts.
Well, regardless, I think there were like good reactions and things that we were doing like on the fly.
Yeah, no, it was funny by itself. I just cut out the dead weight.
But the point is that at the time, I was single. Adam had not been in a relationship for as long as he has been now. We had a great
interaction with Richard that evening,
where he said he was the side piece.
Yes, and I said, and what a good side piece you are.
And then the point is that we had put ourselves in a lot more awkward situations recently. At that time, we had dated recently. We were going to a lot of stuff. We were meeting new people. We had another book event where we met this great guy who was farting too much.
Yeah, that was before though, because we talked about it in the
I know, but I'm saying these kind of things had been happening. And so we had all this like wealth of material that we could just be like, people are like, what's new? And like, I remember I always had a story of like, oh, this weird thing happened to me. And now, we're in our 30s and we stay home with our significant others a lot and we watch Netflix and we just haven't been putting ourselves in so many weird situations as much.
And we meant to go do like some storytelling shows and then never did them and had some opportunities actually. So we're going to try to do that. But Erica thought, and I thought it was a good idea, that we put it out to all of you. Is there anything weird that you want to find out about that you just don't want to do yourself?
You want us to go try or create?
Because we like legitimately want to go out and do it. So and may not know about everything. We want to go try and put ourselves in some stranger situations. Like we used to do it once a week more reasonably. At this point, we're gonna do it once a month. I mean, not limited to, but that's the goal. To just get some more experiences in and try to build up some more of those situations. Yeah, because we really were struggling to come up with something for story time today, and it's not always we don't have something crazy happening every week that it becomes a little bit of a problem sometimes, and we rely on the guests a lot. So we want to start bringing it a little bit more so that we at least have them in the queue in advance, and figured, okay, well if we go once a month, at least we'll get us somewhere. So if you have any suggestions of what we could go out and do that interests you or you just think would be funny, or that you've done that you think we should try, just write in. You can do that at awkward.email, or send it to questions@awkwardhuman.com or 509awkward. And one more thing, check out our shop at awkwardhuman.com/shop, where you can support us and
still for sale.
get lots of stuff. I don't think you're actually up on the shop.
Ugh, I'm not for sale anymore.
But we can add.
There was
you to
no
the shop.
demand.
I'm 4 days away from being able to eat Cheddar Bay biscuits again, world. All
I
right.
transitioned it, and I don't think I put you on there, but we can certainly fix that by the time this episode is
Yeah,
up.
Erica's been doing this diet where she like
Well, by the time this airs, I'll
lost all this
done.
weight and she's like got a thin, sexy body again and like
Again?
whatever.
When was my last thin, sexy body?
I don't know.
I think you've been
When you
had
were
the
a
same
baby?
body before and after the diet, as far as I can tell.
Oh no, I'm way.
No, you
thinner
can
and sexier
see
now.
you can see that she's lost some of her
Yeah, I
side
think
stuff
Erica lost her
and her humor.
baby fat or whatever. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. I mean, you were thinking that. Well,
I did. Okay, my first reaction when I watched the video was, "Oh my god, we all look like we were stung by bees," which leads me to my next question: was I funnier when I was fatter?
And Richard doesn't need that though, because he's so good at laughing at himself that he'll never think he's not funny.
Yeah. No, that's a fact.
Well, okay, to be clear, I don't think I'm not funny. I was just so impressed by how funny I was then that I was like,
You were really on.
did I? Is it because I don't eat as much sugar anymore? Like, you know, you get the sugar high and then you start making jokes.
I think it was like the height of our moment at that time, where
Is it the rice? Is it the fucking rice I want all the time?
Well, I mean, when
No,
you're on
it's-
stage, you know what the questions are going to be approximately. You've told the stories a bunch of times. It's
not
our minds were
just
free
that
to
night,
associate and make like
Listen,
good improv jokes.
you have settled down.
We would go to parties and people would know who we were. They would be like, "Oh, did you hear about the nude cleaner that someone hired?" We would be like, "That was us. We hired the nude cleaner."
We talked about that at the book thing.
Yeah, well, when has that happened lately? No one knows who we are when we walk into a
We
party.
don't go to parties anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, I've gone to
I'm
a
so
couple,
busy being
but-
thin, I don't have time to go to parties.
Yeah, that's the problem. You got to go show off your body. We'll both
Yeah,
get
but I
some
can't
bikinis
drink.
and we'll
That's
go.
why I don't go to parties.
You can't drink?
On the diet.
Oh, well, after you turn
Too much
however
bread in
old
that
you're getting,
alcohol.
I'm not.
32.
I know, but I'm not saying because
It's fine. I'm
private
loud and
information.
proud.
Okay.
I look great, and I'm turning
Okay,
32.
40,
so
46.
take that, world.
46 years old, Erica.
46?
It hardly looks like it. Just she looks like a young 43. And
Yeah.
Most people think I'm 25, so.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. That's
Well,
nice.
I'm apparently a teenager now because I've got pimples. I don't know where they came from.
All that sugar.
It didn't have that much.
I mean, my
I had ice
skin
cream the last
has
couple
been
nights.
way less oily.
I think
since
it's
this diet.
I think it's because I ate at the movie theater when we went to San Diego.
You ate at a
We ate a
movie
lot
theater?
of junk.
Yeah,
when
I
we
had
were
all
in
this
San
junk. I
Diego.
felt so gross, but I was like, it's vacation. I'm gonna have cheese sticks and an icy.
Pretzels.
Ices are disgusting.
No, they're really good, just in moderation.
No,
you can't have a whole
we're
one.
really good. I loved the blue raspberry icy, and I had it. And I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is this shit? This is so gross.
What if I hate ices now? I'm not
You
gonna
will
be funny,
for,
I'm
like-
gonna hate ices.
No, you're gonna
Don't
hate
Richard
them
never
for
let
like
me
a
get
day
one
or
again.
two, but then you're gonna get right back into it. Don't worry about
I
it.
can never have a whole one anymore, like a medium, like movie
No,
theater one.
it's too
like
much sugar.
So much sugar.
Yeah.
But
So
much
I
sugar.
like it when someone
So
else gets
old.
it, and then I can have some.
Hey, I ate cookies and ice cream last night, and it worked out.
I got these
lovely way.
beautiful, and I'm gonna give you one, but I got these beautiful chocolate truffles with sea salt. When you can eat it,
4 days.
I mean,
you
they-
should eat it.
I don't know if they're.
Where'd you get them from?
I mean, they
Imperfect
maybe they
produce?
taste Beautiful.
You got chocolate truffles.
That
Uh-huh.
was
So
my
sometimes
reaction.
imperfect produce. So if you guys don't know, they're not a sponsor. I'm not gonna.
Real
I won't
imperfect.
talk about
Richard
it.
really
But
likes it.
basically, they sometimes partner with people with like people making things. So they do like coffees and stuff like that. So like they partner with other manufacturers of like food type stuff that like use.
But imperfect produce,
Like-
you could be a sponsor. Nothing's stopping you.
Richard keeps talking about you guys. Fucking sponsor us.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, they're totally listening. So that's the.
Well, I'm sure someone has a connection to someone at
No,
Imperfect
well,
Produce who's listening.
Yeah. Get on that, people.
I'm getting on it.
Also, condoms.
Yeah.
If anyone has a
We'll
connection
advertise
to
all the
condoms, please hook us up.
I mean, honestly, I think
You need more
Lifestyle would
condoms?
do it
No, I
just
love talking
having-
about safe sex.
Oh.
I did a campaign for Lifestyle once. Not, I mean, like as an advertising marketing firm person, I made the campaign part of the campaign. I have a feeling like they'd throw us a bone.
They'd be perfect for
We
us.
should talk
so
to we should
someone
talk to
hook us
them.
Dental dams.
up. I've never used a dental dam.
They
Neither have I.
they could use some promotion. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to use a dental dam, but I will if you pay me. And we'll test it out.
I'm in a
Richard, see what
monogamous
happens.
relationship. What am I gonna do with the dental dam? Feel less things?
I don't want Richard coming in my mouth, honestly. Is
That's
this
not
too
what a
much?
dental
Is
dam
too
is
much?
for.
It goes inside the vagina, right?
Well,
No,
it's
dental for your mouth.
no, it goes on the thing that you're licking so that you don't put your saliva into the orifice.
I guess we don't know what dental dams are.
Oh my god.
I don't think it goes in
No,
your mouth.
You don't.
I thought it was like a female condom.
It's not a female condom. It's like I thought it was a layer that you put on your vagina, and so the dude is basically licking through the plastic.
Okay,
my
hey,
God.
it's a sheet.
Yeah,
It's a plastic
layer.
sheet, and you bleh.
Right.
It's like a you. Here,
It's not for cum.
I will read the definition. A thin sheet of latex used by dentists to isolate a tooth. Okay, well that's. Hold on. Isolate a tooth being worked on, or as a prophylactic device during cunnilingus or and analingus. I guess you got to do both. But don't use the same dental dam for both holes, please. That's a bad idea. But apparently not.
But like you could go
Coccolingus?
from
What is that called?
cockling
That's what you use
a
a condom
blowjob.
for.
Yeah, but what's the lingus one?
Fellatio.
Fellatio.
But you
right?
don't use a dental dam for that because you have condoms for dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's
Dams
true.
are for other orifices.
Yeah, but it's mostly like you just pull it out, pull the sheet out in front of your face and go.
sounds so
"Bah."
Yeah, how would you
unsexy.
give a blowjob?
Yeah,
that
no,
way?
that's why no one does it. But we'll find a way to make it sexy. Dental Dams Incorporated. If you want to, if you want to sponsor us, we'll
Wait,
figure
is
it out.
dental dams
I
what
will
they're
lick
called,
his
or is that
asshole with that dental dam.
their brand?
That's what they're called.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what
Like
they're
a
called.
tissue, not
Yeah,
a
they're-
penis.
Okay.
Yeah, they were kind of repurposed for sex. It seems.
See, I'm if you stuck around
Oh my goodness! there's
for the
some
end of the
pictures.
episode to get to this,
I hope you did.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, send us some sponsors. Rate our fucking show. Goodbye.
Yeah. You have a question, story, comment, or whatever for the Awkward Human Survival Guide? We want to hear it. We read everything we get on the show, censored for your privacy if you wish, and might laugh about your problem because tragedy loves humor, but genuinely want to help you out. If you've got something to share with us, even if you think it's stupid, send it in as anonymously or proudly as you wish. You can do all of that at awkward.email. You just go to http://awkward.email. Oh yeah, and watch the videos on YouTube, youtube.com/awkwardhuman. Hello and welcome to the Awkward Human Survival Guide. This week we're talking about... I forgot I had to say this.
Yeah.